Voila, we are now
Quite right.
live. Well, welcome to anybody and everybody who's listening to this first edition of Ask Me Anything About Accreditation. And in actual fact, you could ask us anything about the coaching and mentoring industry, CPD, business building, all of those sorts of questions. And if you're a member of the public, you might be interested to ask questions around, well, why does any of this even matter when I'm choosing my coach, a mentor, or training provider? I'm Aurora Dawn Campbell, your host at the IAPCNM. And today in the hot seat, I'm joined by the lovely Lisa McMurtry, who is our head of CPD and an accredited coach and a training provider. So ideally placed to answer your questions. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I always enjoy spending time with you. And we have the my VA Rowena, who's on social media looking for questions. So even though we're having a conversation and it might feel like people are just eavesdropping, they're just having a cup of tea on a lunch break and come across us chatting away, they can still post their questions in the chat box. And Rowena, who is on WhatsApp, will message us. So, what fills your heart with joy at the moment then, Lisa?
Oh, I love that question. I bring that question into our training. It's one of the questions we share with our trainees. It's a question I bring into my coaching. We discussed that question in some training a couple of years ago, didn't we? And I've used it ever since. What brings you joy? And it really gets me thinking every single time. And what brings me joy right now is the autumn. Yeah, the autumn season is just so beautiful, and we've just done a autumn solstice retreat. We did an event on Sunday and we talked about the energies of the seasons and bringing that into your life, how we can use the seasons as messages to really support how we live our life and how that looks in terms of autumn. And I'm actually going to do a talk on bringing the seasons, the energy seasons, into business, working our business according to the seasons. And because of that, I've been collecting conkers, I've been collecting leaves, I've been walking out in nature, and I can hear the birds. I've been really present and really mindful this season. And I think right now that's what's bringing me a lot of joy.
Have you come across the book Wintering?
Yes.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I remember in that book, she was out every day with her dog, collecting conkers, leaves, anything and everything, and then coming back and drawing them and putting them in her diary
Ah.
as a way of helping her cope because she suffered with SAD, as I recall.
Mm.
Um, and it just helped her get through the seasons and find a little pocket of happiness, something to be joyful about every single day. And I think being grateful and finding joy in the change of the seasons is a really beautiful thing. And anybody listening to this, uh, it will just give you an energy, a feeling of the energy and philosophy behind Lisa's training that she does with the lovely Joe Cantel, who is a great masterclass speaker as well. But we'll come back to that. So, for people who are listening, these monthly calls are always going to happen at this time on TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. And it's your opportunity to ask us questions. So you may be a training provider thinking, oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about accreditation as a way of attracting more students. And of course, if you're a university, things like accreditation are really important because international students really do their due diligence and look at the league tables and are looking for reviews, etc., before they spend their funds on training. You might be a newly qualified coach thinking, well, I've just spent all this money on becoming certified. And then there's the insurance, the business cards, the website, the bookkeeping. You don't need any of that. You need to be properly trained, insured if your country offers insurance, independently accredited, because nobody should be marking their own homework. Independently accredited. Now you've got a choice of country-specific accreditation bodies or European or international like ourselves. So again, do your due diligence. Find an accreditation body that has a community that's aligned with your values and the type of support that you're going to need to grow your business. You may be a very well-established coach like Lisa and I, thinking, well, it's an unregulated market. We rely on our reputation. We get lots of referrals. Why do we even need to become accredited? So we're going to talk about why it's important. And it's kind of like one of those things, like insurance, you don't know you need it until you need it. And bearing in mind, there's a couple of really big legal cases going on in the States at the moment where clients are suing their coaches. You know, we always follow what goes on in the US, and we will become a sue culture. So, you know, we're also going to discuss regulation. Is that something that we want for our industry? We're self-regulating at the moment. Who's the other category that could be listening, Lisa? Who have I missed? So training providers, old coaches like you and I, new coaches like your graduates.
And
well, I suppose
those who are interested, it's the public in terms of when they're looking for a coach or a training provider. You know, those who are seeking out coaches to help them in their journey, as well as those who maybe are considering training to be a coach, that actually looking for those who have gone through the accreditation, who are accredited, who are experienced, to be their trainers, their mentors in going forward.
Absolutely. I'd forgotten about that one. All the people who want to add coaching to their skill set. And of course, we know that you can do it for a couple of dollars over a weekend on, you know, one of the platforms and then call yourself a coach on Monday morning. But of course, you're not a coach because you haven't served your apprentice. And you're not really in a position to practice on live clients just because you've got a diploma for $7, you know, and you've paid the upgraded price to get a certificate of $63. So you're a coach. It doesn't work like that. So we're going to discuss all those things, but also, as Lisa says, you could be just a member of the public. I don't mean just, but I mean a member of the public who is thinking, it's a bit of a wild west out there. Everybody and their dog is calling themselves a coach. How do I choose and protect my mental health and well-being and hard-earned cash? How do I choose who to have support me as a coach or mentor, or where do I go? Which training provider do I choose to train with? So over the course of the coming months, we're going to discuss as much of this as possible. And as I say, Rowena is happy to take your questions. Rowena, just send me a message on WhatsApp, please, that you're listening, you're live, and you can hear us. And we will get started. And you'll have heard me ask what is typically a great transpersonal question at the beginning about what fills your heart with joy, because as solopreneurs, we often forget to look after ourselves and practice what we preach. And of course, we all love coaching, mentoring, training, but we're 101 other things. We've got more than one purpose in life. You know, we're family members, we're friends, we have hobbies. So that's why I think it's really important just to start a conversation with getting back in touch with what fills your heart with joy, what makes your heart sing outside of work. Because if I don't say that, Lisa, outside of work, everybody tells me how much they love coaching or mentoring or whatever. But we're more than one dimension. So I'm glad that you shared a very timely thing about the autumn. You're right. I'm looking at blue sky, reddy brown, green leaves falling. It is beautiful.
It really is.
Yeah. So
what brings you joy?
Oh, well, yeah, thank you. Definitely being outside. I'm a walker, which is bizarre because as a child, I just didn't like walking anywhere at all. My parents were walkers and I used to drag my feet along behind them thinking, oh, and then they said I was like a homing pigeon. When we got to the halfway point, even though I didn't know where I was in front. I was straight on my way back home. So my brother and I did not like walking with my parents, but as you get older, your philosophy and perspective changes. And now I walk everywhere, and having dogs help for the last 25 years. So very keen walker. So being outside and seeing the seasons, as long as it's dry and hopefully sunny. I don't mind the cold, it's the wet I don't like. So cold, crisp, sunny day, but especially if the sea's in front of me and the mountains are behind, I'm a happy bunny.
Beautiful.
Very nurturing. Thank you for asking. So we'd
Pleasure.
love to hear about your journey, because I know you had a professional background before coaching. So I'm guessing with that profession, accreditation was a no-brainer, but perhaps you could just fill us in and talk about your training, how that came about as well, please, your training company.
Gosh, that's a few years in the making. And
I know.
I met a lady on Sunday at an event that we had a table on, and I said thank you to her because she used her time when I first got started in coaching to come and meet me and help me put my LinkedIn page together. And she asked me what brought me to this point, and I told her my history. And she said, that needs to be in your bio, that needs to be on your LinkedIn, because all of what you have gone through is now why you are creating what you're creating, which was the coaching business. And I've never really put the two together. So my journey began way back when, and I know I still look in my 20s, but I'm not. I'm in my mid to late 40s now. And I started off as a mental health nurse. I qualified as a psychiatric nurse back in 2021, and I worked in semi-secure units. I was working with high risk, and it was quite medicalised in its approach. And I didn't know any other way within psychiatric nursing. That was what I was used to within the area. And when I was 22, so a couple of years later, I'd studied to degree, and then I went over to live in Ireland. And in Ireland, I got the opportunity to work in the community. And in order to work in the community, I felt like I needed to develop my skill set, because I was invited to run workshops, meditation classes, personal development style sessions like psychoeducation, one-to-one therapeutic support. And I didn't feel like I had the skill set. So I asked if I could do further training, and that's what led me to kind of do my postgraduate, other certifications, and then went into my master's. And it opened up my eyes. I began to realize that a lot of what was kind of causing distress or an imbalance of harmony for all of us was stress related, and how stress impacted us physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And that just blew my mind. I didn't understand this in those young years. And it also changed my life, because I began to understand me more with this new level of learning. I started to apply what I was learning to me. And it made such a huge impact to my life that I did become a bit of an advocate then. Everywhere I remember contacting a local family resource centre in Ireland, and I used to run stress management classes there. And that was kind of putting my feet into the entrepreneurial world way back when. So I worked as a mental health nurse right the way up until my second boy, when that was back in 2013. And I just loved to support others in understanding themselves, understanding stress, understanding how it was impacting them, and sharing tools and techniques of how they could support their stress levels. And then when I had the children, the job that I had in the NHS, because I was back in the UK at this point, it didn't suit my children. I was full time. I started at 8, I finished at 6. The nurseries started at 8 and they finished at 6. I was like, how am I going to get them there, and how am I going to get them, and if they were sick? And I had to really sit with myself in terms of how I wanted my life to be, how I wanted the next kind of 20 years to be. And unfortunately, it wasn't the nursing hat anymore. So I left nursing back in 2012, and I mummied it for a few years, which I absolutely loved. I'm so grateful that I took that time and just looked after my 2 boys. And then in 2016, 17, I was pregnant. No, 16, I was pregnant with Emily. And I decided it was time to put the hat back on. but it didn't feel like nursing would be the hat. It felt like it would be something else. And the way the algorithms are, somehow it read my mind. And I started to see all of these comments and posts and advertisements around coaches. And as I started to do my research, I was like, well, that's what I did, only with a different hat. So I actually started a coaching business, and I got the insurance, and I used to run workshops, and that was predominantly how I got started. I used to run personal development workshops, self-esteem workshops, confidence workshops, vision board workshops. And as I started on the journey, I then felt like I needed somebody to be accountable to. That's what I'd had within the nursing body. And that's when I became aware that the industry was unregulated. And I wasn't aware of that when I first became a coach. And I was like, I don't want to be in the industry and not be accredited. I wanted to lead the way, I suppose. And that was when I found you. That's when I found you. So I applied for accreditation, and because my passion was, once I understood that the industry was unregulated, it felt like a bit of a risk area for me. And again, from my background, I wanted to kind of lead the way and step forward and say, well, although it is unregulated, we also have a choice. And with awareness comes power. And if we are aware that we can get accredited and we can stand strong in our coaching capabilities, then we are leading the way to the way that we want the industry to go, which is to be safe and ethical and legal. And that was what led me to you guys. And that was what led me to the accreditation. And then because I had this passion on people being trained well, I began to realize that all those years in nursing, all those skills that I developed, the interpersonal skills, the communication skills, the ability to read a room, the ability to be able to feel into someone's energy and notice what was changed, like the subtle non-verbal things, as well as the emotional skills I developed, the resilience skills, etc. And I thought, you know what, maybe I could train other people to a standard that I feel is needed in the industry. And again, that was when I reached out to you guys. And fortunately, because of my nursing background, I did have the credentials to put a training program together. I beta phased it first. So a number of students worked with me through a beta phase. I had a beta price. I got lots of feedback, and then handed it in for assessment. And then that was when the first accredited, which was the level 6, came in full light. So yeah, that's been the journey.
It's a very senior course as well, so it's very, very meaty, isn't it, in terms of the modules?
Yeah, and it's always changing, Dawn. I mean, I'm always looking at how I can improve it. So we now have a trauma. We now look at coaching through a trauma-informed lens. That's a unit we have in the program. I work very closely with one of our old students who's lived her life in adult education. She goes through the program to improve it. We're always looking for feedback to make sure that the program is legal, ethical, and is about equality. So yeah, I'm very proud of it. Very proud of the program.
And I think it's very of the time as well. It's very spiritual orientated, very holistical. So it's not just pure coaching. It's, to be a holistic health coach really around all the different modules. And you've just added breathing to it, I think. Something we all take for granted and think, well, of course I know how to breathe. But as a meditation guide, I know a little bit more about breathing, and you know a lot more about breathing, and we don't do it properly, do we? We don't use it to self-regulate and help ourselves.
No, we don't. And it's something we advocate for our students, is when they're first beginning to work with somebody, that invitation to breathe with your clients actually is a part of the pre-coaching session. It's that settling of your nervous system and settling your client's nervous system, because when the nervous systems are working in harmony, we're able to listen better as coaches. And from that listening, we're able to ask those questions. And sometimes just taking a few breaths with the people we're working with just helps everything just go.
Well, actually, there's a section of Buddhism called Shin, and they believe you take 21 normal breaths, which takes about 90 seconds for the average healthy adult, to bring an agitated mind back to a neutral resting state. So we always start our weekly meditations with 21 normal breaths. And then we have 3 very deep breaths in and out through the mouth, as almost like you're panting, sucking through a straw and blowing through. And you can really just feel the body surrender that last bit of attention from having an agitated mind or monkey mind or whatever, doing what you were doing before you came to the session. So it's a really good thing to do for the clients, but it's a good thing for the coaches to do as well, to make themselves, as you say, available to listen at a much deeper level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So accreditation was a no-brainer for you because you'd come from a background of regulation. And I'm super impressed. I didn't know that the NHS back in those days, not that you're that old, but back in those days, were interested in such subjects and put you through training and supported your interests like that.
Yeah. This was in Ireland, and the postgraduate that I did was I did a postgraduate in mental health nursing, and I felt that was everything that I knew. So I asked if I could go and specialize, and I did a postgraduate in psychosocial interventions, and that was really looking at how basically working with the whole of a client, rather than just a diagnosis or rather than just through medication, was actually about recovery and avoiding relapse. And that was when I began to I was like, but this applies to everybody in everything. And that was when my mind began to grow. So when I went to do it as a master's level, although I was focusing specifically the master's research on supporting people who heard voices, what came from that research was there were many people who heard voices, but those that came into the mental health service, it was the style of the voice. And actually voices that were supportive and encouraging, that group of people never entered the mental health service. And as I looked into it in terms of support and reducing mental health distress, I began to look at it as a whole population. And it was things like listening to the person, meeting the person where they're at, client-centered care, not placing your judgment and your agenda onto the person you're working with, teaching them skills such as meditation, mindfulness, walking, being involved in local communities. And I was like, everybody needs to know this. And that's again kind of weaved through the training program that we do. It's that the first unit that we have is called the Therapeutic Coach Practitioner. And although we blend in the 10 capabilities, its ethos is on Carl Rogers, meeting the person where they're at. That's right the way through our unit 1. Because I think without that, we can't build on there. If we haven't got that relationship with somebody, then it's hard for somebody to open up. And if somebody's not able to open up because they don't feel safe, then how can we really support them in a coaching capacity?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things there that I just noted down, and this was a little bit earlier, but you were talking about the training and the practice, and it made me think that actually, if we're sensible, we become our first and best client, don't we? Because we can coach ourselves over anything. And when I was head of mentoring for a training academy, I used to say to the students, if you don't ever set up a coaching business, you've got a huge amount out of the training for life, because it's communication by any other name. And of course, we've got the radio dialogue going on in our head 24/7 again, which is why meditation is so important, to actually shut it up, so that you can listen to the body, and because the body's communicating with the mind, and you can't hear it if the radio's always got that crackly sound. But sometimes, the self-limiting beliefs is like that mean gremlin on your shoulder. So it was interesting what you said about the two different voices. If something was vicious and judgmental, it could send you into mental health spiraling type issues. But if it was positive and it was affirming, no problem how many voices you hear, and we can choose. So that's really interesting. So you say everybody has the voices, which I think of as the radio, and it's just a case of how you perceive them and how you action what you're hearing or what they're telling you.
Yeah. And but when someone, I know that this is obviously nursing related, but when we apply it to coaching, when somebody comes for your support in helping them achieve their goals, which is coaching, the way the coach holds that space or not actually helps somebody move forward or not. And that's where that meeting somebody where they're at is really important, because then that person feels seen, heard and understood and listened to, which means they're more likely to open up, and we're more likely to be able to go deeper and support that journey moving forward. Whereas if a coach was, I'm not saying we would be, but derogatory, then the impacts that would have could be the other way.
That also reminds me of something I heard Jordan Peterson say the other day in a podcast with the Diary of a CEO. He was talking about judgment, and he said it's not possible. We might, as practitioners, say we're creating a safe, neutral, non-judgmental environment, but it's not possible to be non-judgmental because we're human. We're making judgments all the time. Is it safe, etc. And Jordan Peterson rephrased it to say something like about, well, perhaps we just don't condemn. So we hear something, we make a judgment, but we can choose to condemn it or not.
Yeah.
We choose, we like it, we judge whether we like it or not. But even if we don't have to condemn it. And I've started to think that that's maybe a better way of thinking about it. What are your thoughts?
I think it goes to the curiosity, doesn't it? That core capability of use of self and curiosity. It's that when we do experience a judgment, which we do, we're human, we can use that as being curious. Yeah, I'm curious here, what's happening for me or what's happening for the other person, to understand the landscape a bit more.
Yeah. And something else you said, which was interesting because I hear it all the time, is that I've never been a professional coach. I've never had any coach training. When I come to coach training, I think, that's what I've been doing for years with my teams. It was certainly my experience in the sales environment, and it was yours in the nursing. And I think that's one of the reasons everybody and their dog calls themselves a coach, because they now understand what coaching is, what counseling is, what consultancy is, what training is, what therapy is. And so most people think they can coach. I think that's possibly one of the problems.
The skills are needed, the skills development. It's like learning to drive a car. We can't read a book and drive a car. Oh, maybe we can. But, we go for lessons, don't we? We go for practical hands-on lessons, and then we pass, and then we really learn.
Yeah, and that's why we've got the A sticker for 2 years in the back of the car in France.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is in the UK.
We get a P.
A P, okay.
A P, a green P for pass, I think it is.
All right, okay. And how long do they have that in the back of the car?
I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure,
okay.
But I do know you get a P for pass, which means that if you're on the road, people are aware that you're newly passed.
Exactly. Well, we have two years where we see an A, and we treat them with extra care because they're a little bit unpredictable.
They need looking after.
They need a bit of TLC. Yeah, we've got our first question come in,
Yeah.
um, and it is from Miriam. Let me just go to it. Thank you, Miriam, for your question. Really appreciate you listening in. What are the benefits of accreditation via the portfolio route? Okay, so I will answer this. As you've quite rightly seen from the website, I can tell because you've used our language, you've got the AT-PCR route or you've got the portfolio route. So the AT-PCR route is students of Lisa's program. So if they've gone on Lisa's course, because she's invested in having her training program independently accredited, her graduates get a faster track reduced fee option to adding a personal accreditation status to their evidence portfolio. So that's another USP for students deciding to work with an accredited training provider. If you come through the portfolio route, you get exactly the same benefits and privileges, personally and professionally. The difference is in the accreditation process because we don't know you. We don't know the quality of training that you've had. It could be, a low dollar cost weekend training course on social media. Not to say that there's anything wrong with the quality of the training. It could be very, very good, but you haven't been supervised, mentored, or been in coaching study buddies and practiced and served your apprenticeship. So the people who typically come through portfolio might be somebody who has worked in a corporate environment and has now discovered actually what they've also been doing as part of their job is coaching. And they feel they would like to be assessed on the merits of what they've done for the last however many years in the corporate world. We quite often have people come from the forces. We have people from the legal profession who maybe run a barrister's office, a legal firm, they're a barrister, and they think, right, okay, now I understand the difference between coaching and mentoring. I've done that, but I don't actually want to go on a course unless you tell me I need to. So we assess them. And most people will pass because they've got years of experience coaching and mentoring. They just didn't know they were coaching and they don't have a qualification. So because we're capabilities based in terms of our assessment, which is very humanistic, and it's about can you deliver a great conversation that is mostly listening, some powerful open questions, then why would we not take people who haven't had a formal coach training certification? So it's the route for you. It's almost like a catch-all. You may or may not be certified, but it's people who we don't know. So the benefits are exactly the same. You just do a little bit more work around the accreditation process. So I hope that answers your question, Miriam. Anything you would add to that, Lisa?
I went through the portfolio route because I hadn't at that point. I'd done some self-studies on self-study platforms, and that affirmed to me that I knew those skills. But I hadn't done I had done a formal coaching program actually because I felt I needed it. I felt like I need to do an official coaching one. I did actually do one. It wasn't accredited with the IAPCNM. So I hadn't, my training from nursing right the way through post-nursing had no connection to the IAPCNM. So I went through the portfolio route.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'd forgotten that. I mean, with you talking about your nursing background, it's also reminded me that in a way, that's how we started as an organization some 26 years ago, Lisa. Our head of professional standards was in the NHS, and it was all about having the philosophy of first do no harm. So it's an unregulated market. 26 years ago, coaching was very, very young, and a group of volunteers got together to set up an industry standard. So we were a not-for-profit UK-based organization. And it was aimed at creating a community of professional coaches who had the end user in mind. So that was our history. And then it grew to be European to reflect our growing audience. And then over a decade ago, we changed to the IAPCNM, the International Authority for Professional Coaching and Mentoring, to reflect the fact that we've got clients literally all over the world. We might not be a huge organization, but we've got members everywhere. So we might not have 50,000 in one country. We might only have one or two, but we're everywhere. And that's why we changed. And our company has evolved organically over those years. But our premise has always been first, do no harm. Look after the end user. It hasn't been about ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. How many coaches can we sign up? It's about educating the public to do their due diligence. And once they do that, they're going to ask the coaches, you are trained? No. Okay. So are you insured? Do you have a complaints procedure? Are you accredited? And if you're accredited, then there's all those reassurances that they're going to be well looked after. And there's an escalation procedure in the event that something does go wrong, which it doesn't happen often in Europe. But as I say, it's happening all the time in the States, and we tend to be a few years behind them. So accreditation is a bit like insurance. There is, we get inquiries from coaches and we get inquiries from the public saying the relationship has fallen down. Can we do something? And if they're not accredited with us, then we can't. So it's kind of like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you, for a small sum of money, show that you're a professional coach, you're committed to making the profession as professional as possible, and you're part of that, and that you care about the well-being of your client? I know we don't have to become accredited, but why wouldn't you? That's a sticky point for me.
And it's the support as well. When you're out, for example, if you are in business and you're out there building a coaching business, it's quite lonely, it's quite isolating. And some of these things that you talk about are genuine fears for coaches when they're out there, the what ifs. And working with yourselves, there's always somebody to talk to. I can see to the side of you the monthly support sessions, from the business support to the member orientation, from the fully booked and your mindful meditation sessions, that well-being support, and the tech support as well. I feel like being a part of IAPCNM, there's like a bubble of support around me. And although I may not always use it, I know it's there. And then we've just had one of our students become accredited with yourselves last week, and she got 92 or 93%. She's done amazing. And do you know her level of confidence? And because she's took herself through the assessment process, which will show, your level of capability, I suppose. And she's suddenly she realizes what she's bringing to the table. She's stronger in her skill set because she went through such a process.
You're right. It's a massive boost to the confidence. We hear this all the time, because obviously when you're certified with your peers at that level. When you go for accreditation with whoever is the right accreditation body for you, you're being assessed at that level. It's an international level if you come to us, and you're being assessed against an industry international standard. So when you come up through it, particularly with the sort of marks that your graduate did, Lisa, which is amazing for a grad, it's not only a massive boost to your confidence, but you can call yourself a best-in-class practitioner, which sets you apart in the sea of sameness. I mean, it's an incredibly noisy digital space out there. So why wouldn't you want to make it easy for prospective clients to find you by, being certified, being insured, being accredited? And the fourth thing that I'm always going on about, and you and I have done some work on this before, is, write a book. It doesn't have to be a tome, just 90 pages. Our program is 90 pages in 90 days. Write something that will shine a light on your business, which is why we have the Inspiring Authors interview series, sharing what having a book did for them. you don't make a lot of money out of writing a book, unless you're like Lisa and you turn the book into a program, and then workshops and retreats, and that's what shines a light on the business. You get asked to be a speaker and things like that. So a book is just one of those other, what I think of as the four key differentiators to stand out in that sea of sameness on social media, which is just so noisy. I mean, what's your view on marketing? You probably don't do it yourself, but what's your strategy for becoming more well known other than relying on referrals?
Connection. Even with social media, we don't manage our social media anymore. However, those who interact with us on social media, it is Joe and I reacting back. It is Joe and I having conversations with people. And I always, it's something we teach with our people. And it was it my mum taught me this? I'm not sure. But it was two things. When you're around somebody, as best you can, when you leave, it's about being around people and letting them feel good around you. And also, it's not about what's in it for me, it's about what's in it for you. And for me, the way we've built our business is on those values. It's always about what's in it for the other person. And if I'm not the right person, I'll refer on. It's always about connection. Like, how can I connect with you so that you feel good when you're around me? And not in a smarmy, salesy way, but just a genuine, I want to connect. I want those relationships. And yeah, social media is a part of that. But it's one of the reasons why Joe and I decided, although someone's looking after the marketing, if there is any conversations taking place, those conversations take place with Joe and I, not somebody else. If somebody jumps into our inbox, it's not somebody else who replies, it's Joe or I. Same with our emails. When we're going networking, we're just connecting with people. And that's, for me, has been, well, I never thought it was a thing. Until people started to ask me, how did you build your business? And it was like, just through genuine connection.
And it's a skill. It really is. It reminded me of, and I can't remember the term for this, but I remember reading that when you're in Japan and you visited somebody, they will stay at the gate and wave you goodbye until you've left the horizon.
I do that to my mum when she comes to my house.
Yeah. And also another one is that you don't hang up first on the phone. And it also reminded me of Dr. Anish, who's one of our expert masterclass speakers on the 29th of November. I learned a lot from him when he was one of my guests during a similar sort of Ask Me Anything that I did a couple of years back. And we've stayed in touch, and he's done a couple of masterclasses. And as I say, he's coming back at the end of November. He said about listening. Very few questions, just listen, and don't be afraid of the silence, which a lot of particularly new coaches, but not just coaches, people in general, people are frightened of silence. They fill every moment. And he took the longest pauses, really thinking and reflecting on what the client had said, and really drummed home to me how important listening is. So that's, again, a sort of connection, making the person feel good, feel heard, understood. And if you don't understand them, if you take a moment as a coach to think about it and reflect, then the client knows that you're engaged. It's a real embodied experience that's very equal between the two of you. So yeah, you can all be summed up under the word connection.
Absolutely. And I find it easier to listen than talk. What about you?
Definitely. Unless I'm with people I really, really know and love, then I'm a bit of a chatterbox. But generally speaking, yes, I'm a listener.
Yeah.
Introvert, extrovert.
Depending on who we're with.
Yeah, exactly. What are some of the other core key skills in communication, not just for coaches, but things that are going to enhance somebody's ability to make others feel good around them, and they, because it's a ripple effect, they will feel good as well. What do you think?
I think when we're chatting with people, one of the things we teach in our listening skills in our training, I think actually comes from the Coactive Coaching book, and it's a listening exercise, and I refer to it as pub talk. So when there's pub talk, you'll tell me about your holiday, and then I'll tell you all about my holiday. And I might actually interrupt you halfway through your holiday talk because it's reminded me, like you might say, and we went to the beach, and then I'll go, oh, went to the beach and then we've gone over there, and then I'll say something and it will remind you. And so all we're doing is talking about ourselves, but not really listening to the other person's life. And when we really listen to somebody in any capacity, whether it's in the bus stop, whether it's in the shopping queue, whether it's for me at the school gates with the parents, or whether it's in a coaching capacity, it's that, and what was the sea like? You know, tell me more about the sea. You've mentioned the sea. And ask questions about what we're hearing to understand that person's life a little bit more. We'll always leave somebody walking away feeling seen, heard, and listened to. And if we want to make a difference in our general community, that's how we can do it. Just really listen to what people are saying and ask them questions. Find out more, be curious.
I love that element of curiosity, that
yeah,
we can give ourselves permission to be curious. I would add to that, Lisa, that the questions primarily need to be open. So Kipling's 6 Good Wise Men and True, who, what, where, how, which, when. And not why for coaches, unless you're a trained counsellor. But I just share with you a story from one of my students from many years ago. He was a divorced man who shared the school run. So he used to pick up the little girl, I think she was 5 or 6 at the time. And he used to say, before he was on his coach training, have you got any homework? Did you have your lunch today? Whatever. And he said it was a very sort of passive relationship because she didn't live with her daddy. So he said he was conscious of her head was down, fiddling with her satchel, they're driving her, and all too soon he had to drop her back off with her mummy. But he said once he started the coaching program, it completely changed. And I think this is life-changing. He said he started to ask her, what did you have for lunch? Who did you play with? What homework have you got? And so she was starting to look at him and engage. And there was excitement, there were stories, there were things that he could help with, share. And he just said, it's just bowled me over, the power of those 6 open questions, how it's changed my relationship with this little girl. And I just always remember that as a really touching story.
That's beautiful. It's a next level. It's a next level of connection. Absolutely. That ability to really listen to whoever we come in contact with and genuinely ask questions. And the who, what, where, when, how. Absolutely. Relationships change, they deepen, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm conscious of the time, so let me just check if there's any more messages, Rowena. No, nothing else has come through yet. We have got people watching, though.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, please do join in if you're enjoying this conversation. I feel like we've only just touched the tip of the iceberg, and we should talk again around the 7 listening, the 9 silences, all of these things in an informal, non-training type of way, just for the joy of having a conversation, really. But what would you like to discuss in our remaining time together that I've not instigated? What's on your mind?
Well, I do have a dice. I'd like to ask you a question. Let me go get it. So So I'll tell you the story of the dice. So this is from my stepdad, who went to a car boot sale, and I bring this a lot into our training, especially at the beginning when people are getting to know each other. And I think it cost him 50p. And he said, Lisa, I think this would be really suited for what you do. And there's a number of questions on each part of the dice. So if I throw the dice up and then I ask you a question, would that be okay?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. Where would you like to travel?
Tibet.
Tibet. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
What is it about Tibet?
Well, as a practicing Buddhist, I've been interested in Tibet probably since I was a stressy late 20s exec who then went to my first meditation class as a way of calming down. And then hearing about learning over the years, the plight of the Tibetan people. And I did a couple of years studying Tibetan Buddhist philosophy. I'm just fascinated with all things Tibet. So if it's got Buddhism or Tibet in a story, I'm going to be reading it. Yeah, not keen on wearing the wool clothes and drinking the yak's milk as a vegan, but I would love to visit Tibet. So throw it again for yourself.
I will. Each question is an open question.
Cool. Very wise.
Yeah. What book do you like? Gosh, where do I start? I love, and I think you introduced me to him, Londra, is it?
Oh, Lodro, yes.
Lodra, yeah. Take Your Mind Back. Yeah, Take Your Mind Back.
Author of the Buddha Walked into a Bar.
Yeah,
he was one of my Buddhist meditation teachers. He's the one who certified me as
wow.
a guide. Yeah, I thought you might have said Metaphysical Anatomy, another book in fact, we bought that one for you, but that's a very heavy Bible.
You bought that for me. That's down here as well. I also love Judgment by Gabrielle Bernstein. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Judgment Detox, great book, amazing book. Really helps me appreciate where I was judging and how that was holding me back. It's a brilliant book. It has some EFT tapping exercises in there. Surrounded by Idiots. I adore that book. My son saw it in an airport and he said, I think that book's for you, Mom. And we took it on holiday and I read it within 3 days. It was a great book. I really like anything that's personal development. I'm looking at all my books here. The Compound Effect. I love The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, which really shows us that the daily actions that we take, the small daily actions, is what leads to the momentum in the change, whether that be positive, the way we want life to be, or not so positive, the way we don't want life to be. But the small habits that we engage in is what makes the difference. It's not the big stuff. I really like The Compound Effect. There's just a few.
You sound like me, somebody who collects books. And I was speaking to somebody, the lovely Becky Sanderson, who is also doing a masterclass for us, I think next month. She's the done for you, designs your book, etc. And I said to her, what's on your bedside table? I was interviewing her. She said, nothing. She said, I'm working on books all day, every day. The last thing I want to do is go to bed and read a book. So she wants to watch the TV. But I have got masses of books surrounding my bed. And I would have books on the coffee table. If I wasn't so OCD and wanting everything just to be so, I would love to have books everywhere. But in recent years, I've been moving over to a Kindle, which is not the same at all, but it means that you can take all your treasures with you, when you're on your travels. So I do kind of like my Kindle, but I haven't quite worked out how to find my notes without scrolling pages and pages and pages of notes. There's got to be a way. But yeah, I'm loving my Kindle. And my new Kindle cover, I thought was quite Buddhist. It's like the lotus.
Ah, that's pretty.
It is pretty. So yeah, love books, and just finished reading Start Where You Are.
Ah, what's it like?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could teach or guide meditations on this probably for the whole of the next year. It's all to do with Tonglung and the 50, I think it's 56 slogans. So I love your dice. I'm just looking. I have got so many boxes of oracle cards. Have I got time? Have I got time to pull a card for you? Would you like a card, Lisa?
I would adore a card, please.
Let me get you a card. So I'm going to go with Eckhart Tolle, author of The Power of Now, A New Earth, Awaken Your Life's Purpose. Comes in a really beautiful box. So
that's a good book as well, The Power of Now.
Yeah. Yeah. Just give them a quick shuffle. I love oracle cards. And everybody always says to me when I do these little series, oh, what preparation do I need to do? What are we going to talk about? I say, I don't know. Whatever comes up.
I asked that question only yesterday.
So, green, blue, or orange? What would you like?
Green, please.
Green, being an earthy person. Okay, so the card I pulled for you. Nothing strengthens the ego more than being right. Being right is identification with a mental position, a perspective, an opinion, a judgment, a story. For you to be right, of course, you need someone else to be wrong. And so the ego loves to make wrong in order to be right. Not only a person, but also a situation can be made wrong through complaining and reactivity. Well, that's interesting because my guided meditation with our online Sangha today was all about forgiveness of judgments and wrongs that we've either done ourselves unknowingly or knowingly, or had done to us knowingly or unknowingly. But that's a very deep, deep thought. Anything come to you with that card?
It connected me straight away to the judgment detox. And one of the ways that I always try and work through challenges is appreciating grey matter. That there is no right, there is no wrong. They're just what is, which is everybody's trying to do the best they can with what they have available to them. And that often really helps me just breathe through anything that I find challenging when I do find myself stepping into the right, wrong, black and white, all or nothing thinking styles. Is actually, this is ego coming through, this is fear coming through, and let's take a breath. There is no right, there is no wrong, there just is. And we're all doing the best we can with what we have available to us.
Which goes to prove the Dalai Lama's point that you are in touch with your Buddha nature. We all have Buddha nature, but most of us are desensitized and just walking around, sleepwalking, and not in touch with that. But you clearly are, which is what I would expect. What I would expect from the type of training that you offer. So thank you.
Thank you.
I know I've got to let you go, but it's been an absolute pleasure as always. We don't speak nearly enough. And I always learn a little gem from you. So thank you for your book recommendations as well. I hope everybody listening has got something out of our conversation with Lisa, and that, our monthly sessions, not always with Lisa, I'm sure she'll come back though, but a special guest every Wednesday will become one of your guilty pleasures. Keep your questions coming in. Even if you were too shy to send it through while we were talking, you can use the contact page or just leave a question in the comment box, and Lisa and I love to connect. So we will get back to you. Any final thoughts, Lisa?
just thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I've really, really enjoyed it. And I hope those who are listening, either live or on